This
Sounds good.
conference will
And I've
now
got
be
6 o'clock,
recorded.
Mayor. You're welcome to go.
Okay, Ken, you got it recording?
Recording, go ahead. Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I hope everyone is staying safe and but still getting outside. We should have a nice week, so make sure you get outside and get some fresh air. First thing is to approve the agenda. Does anyone have any questions or any issues or changes to the existing agenda? Okay, if not, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Who did the
Rick.
second?
Rick.
Rick Seiler seconded that. If there's no other comments, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, Mayor Nicolai says aye. Councilmember Bass,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf. Did you say anything, Bruce? Are you on mute?
He's not on mute.
Are you there, Bruce? Okay.
He's giving you the thumbs up, but
Yep. And Councilmember Seiler?
Aye.
Okay, so we got it passed 5-0. So first thing, I assume, Ken, you're going to take this, the adoption of, actually, it's the second reading of this ordinance.
Yep, I'll give it a quick overview. So second reading of the ordinance amendment for high density residential density amendment and building appearance requirements. So we had the introduction at the April 6th meeting. That was passed 4-1. So tonight we have the same ordinance in front of you for a final reading and adoption. Again, for anybody that's watching at home, the increase in the density in RH district is from 22 units up to 32 units per acre. A couple other minor things that are being decreased, which is our per lot per unit requirement, and then the decrease in the open space so you can actually reach that density requirement. And then again, the building design requirements are very similar with our B2 design guidelines, which provide for some general requirements for high quality materials, breaking up roof expanses, that type of thing. So we did have the posted notice before or following last month's last meeting at the April 6th council meeting. So we are all ready for the second reading and adoption should you choose to do so tonight.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or additional comments?
I do. I'd just like to appeal to the fellow council members that I think we should have maybe not gone so liberally and allowed us to keep control. I'll just go on record saying that. I know I don't have the votes, but I think the intent when it was initially set up this way, many council groups before us, I think they really wanted to not have big, huge apartment complexes in New Prague, and this is loosening those standards to where it could one day, I'm not saying it is, but it could come back to bite us. That's all I had to say. I just wanted you guys to reconsider.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments? If not, I guess I'll look for a motion to adopt the second reading of the change in the zoning ordinance.
Rick, I'll move it.
Okay. I will second it. So I got a motion by Rick Seiler, seconded by Chuck Nicolai. Any other further comments? If not, we'll do a roll. Mayor Nicolai says aye. Councilmember Bass?
aye.
Councilmember Ryan?
Nay.
Councilmember Wolf? I assume that's an aye? Okay,
Give
and
you the thumbs
Councilmember
up.
Seiler? Councilmember Seiler,
Oh,
your
I'm sorry,
vote?
aye.
Aye, okay, passes 4-1. Next, Mike, are you gonna take this about the Veterans Memorial?
I will. What you have is that at the April 6th council meeting, we introduced the ordinance that was prepared by the city attorney's office, which would authorize the Veterans Memorial to be placed in Memorial Park. We've been approached by the American Legion Post 45, have subsequently verified that they do have their current nonprofit status, so they are good with the state. Ken, what office is that?
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State as a up-to-date nonprofit entity. There were no other revisions in the ordinance. And so your consideration tonight is to adopt it. Specifically in the ordinance, it is not the intent that the city is responsible for any costs or expenses related to the Veterans Memorial, specifically related to those for the construction and ongoing maintenance, repairs, lighting, control, and supervision of the Veterans Memorial. The ordinance does nothing more than to create the opportunity to occur in Memorial Park. It would be our intent to have a agreement between the city and the American Legion Post 45, and we'll be bringing that to you at the May 4th meeting.
So Mike, would this be like the first reading of the ordinance?
Oh, you did that at April 6th. This
Okay.
is the second reading and adoption.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
So I'd stand for any questions.
Yep, any comments or questions directed at Mike regarding the ordinance? Okay, if not, I guess this is Chuck, and I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance.
This is Rick, I'll second.
Okay, I got a second by Rick. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, Mayor Nicolai, aye. Councilmember Bass,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf, that's an aye, and Councilmember Seiler.
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you. Next, I think, Chris, you're going to take this one?
Yes. I'm assuming you can hear me well?
I can. Can everyone hear Chris all right?
Okay. I wanted to make sure I wasn't talking to the wall. Okay. Well, Mayor, members of the City Council, obviously before you is consideration of resolution accepting the bids for the Trunk Highway 19 Main Street project. We did share with you at the last council meeting the results of that bid, and the agenda report here obviously has things a little bit more in detail. As noted, there was two bidders that were bid on the project. We only received two bidders. They ranged from a high of $13.4 million to a low of $12.5 million. And as noted, the engineer's estimate was just a little over $10 million, about $10.1 million. I do like to point out, yes, while that is about $2.4 million or 24% over the engineer's estimate, the engineer's estimate was prepared last fall in 2019 based on 2019 construction costs. We did do a review. We didn't start getting obviously 2020 bidding information until basically February, March. And just prior to the bid opening, we did do an adjusted bid opening based on the pricing we're seeing this year. And our estimate actually came in about $12.1 million. So in the ballpark of the bids that we received. Basically, looking at this, probably the largest share of the impact will be on MnDOT. about 1.7 million of that over the original estimate is really an increase to the state's portion of the project. It's a lot of the concrete, the street, the road work, storm sewer, etc. Things like removals, excavation, aggregate concrete were consistently higher in both bids, and we were seeing that in the other projects that we were reviewing for costs. And we definitely, I can't really explain it, but that was the increase we're seeing in projects this year. Obviously, as a reminder, we had postponed the bid opening. That originally was scheduled for March 6th, and had postponed it so we could reschedule this project to be a 2-year project. Obviously, this helps reduce some of the project contractor risk and flexibility. And but based on our review, based on MnDOT's review, we don't believe that rebidding this project would result in the bids being any lower. Again, based on the pricing we're seeing this year, had we even bid prior to the other projects, we probably would have seen numbers very similar. And undoubtedly, we usually see the contract prices go up year to year. So we don't see the rebidding would actually change anything. So with that, we did go through a funding and cost and funding review, and that was provided in the report, and I can certainly answer any questions regarding that. I do point out that while the contractor's bid estimate was $12.5 million, there is another about $800,000 that's actually what we call force account work. So it's work that'll actually be done by New Prague Utilities for the lighting work. And that number actually may go up. We're in the process of trying to get some additional, utilize some of the additional federal funding that was allotted for the project. The way the bids came in, we had the one item that actually saved money, and so we're trying to re-steer some of the cost to allow for some additional that federal ATP funding. In our analysis, if you looked at that, you go through the full total project, which includes engineering, legal, fiscal, bonding, etc. It comes out to a total of about $15.2 million as total project cost. And I do like to point out, from a project value standpoint, that does not include any of MnDOT's internal costs, which are obviously part of the total project. So with that, the district, MnDOT District 7, is in concurrence with the award of the bid. I do need to point out that your consideration of the award of bid would be contingent on MnDOT Office of Civil Rights final approval. That was basically the district, again, sent out a letter approving concurring with the award, but that we have not received final approval from the Office of Civil Rights. They did note that, based on, again, our discussions with MnDOT and staff, at this point, we find no reason to deny award a bid to SM Henches & Son out of Jordan, Minnesota. They were the low bidder. They are a local contractor, and even have staff that live in the area, in the community. They've done very similar projects in the past with both SCH as well as the city and MnDOT. And so with that, we are recommending award a bid to SM Henches & Sons. Any questions on that or the information provided in the agenda report?
Chris, this is Chuck. The assessments now look like it's 1.747 compared to 1.492. What is that going to do to people's assessment on the individually?
Yep. Great question. Thanks for asking. So the roadway assessments will, as presented in the report, are not proposed to change. The one item the items that were noted in the report that were going to be based on contract bid prices was the cost for sewer services and water services. And there's a variety of different water service options, because some are 1-inch lines connected to the right of way, some are 1-inch lines brought into buildings, some are going to be 8-inch lines brought to the building. Some were 6-inch lines brought into the building. And those prices did come in higher than expected. We have had discussions, both Bruce, Glenn, Mike, and I have had discussions on, and this is something that we would bring back to council, is to look at adjusting those amounts to be assessed where they may be subsidized either from one of the utilities or subsidized from general fund or somewhere else. We're in the process of discussing that and bringing that back. It doesn't affect obviously the total cost of the project or your consideration of award a bid, but it may adjust the assessments and where they may be adjusted back down. So yes, good question. So yes, the assessments, I am anticipating that they're going to be up slightly. The total amount assessed will be up slightly, somewhat from what was originally estimated in the feasibility study, but might not be quite as high as we're looking here. Now the adjustment will either be one of the utility funds or in the general levy.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, when will we know that number, Chris?
I think we probably would look at bringing that back even for the next council meeting.
The assessments?
Well, what we would recommend for assessment rates for the sewer service, the water service, and sanitaries. Well, yeah, the sewer service and the water services. And the reason being is we need to broadcast that out to the property owners. So if they need to make some decisions based on that, they have the information available to them.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
this is Chuck. Are we still planning to not have to do any general levy funding on this project?
That could change in the end. The one piece that's not shown in any part of this because it wasn't bid with that is the consideration of any work that would come in from the committee taking a look at Central Plaza, and subject to what you just heard from Chris and taking a look at how we handle some of the water and the sanitary sewer service lines. I think going back to Sean's question, and Chris highlighted it, but I think it's worth repeating again, is the basic assessments for the street portion of the project are not and have not changed from the original feasibility report. So that's the biggest piece. That's the front footage cost that was determined back in the 2018 feasibility study. So that number could change, Chuck. When we had it originally, we started out with monies in the general levy, but as we worked and took a look at it with state aid, we shifted it to state aid with the idea that we take that off the tax levy and move that into our state aid funds that we get from the state of Minnesota.
Okay.
So at this point, we don't have a number to stick in there that we were going to have Kay and her committee, the people that were involved in working on the Central Plaza up at the intersection of Main Street and Central Avenue. They were going to present at the last meeting originally, and we tabled that due to moving to this type of format, that it wasn't going to be quite the same. And depending on how soon we can get back to there could be a number from that committee that you may want to consider putting in that area. But that doesn't inhibit, again, on the award tonight to do the project. What we end up doing as far as between state aid and general levy is kind of an internal shift as to where we go. But we took a look at trying to do that to maximize that potential with state aid. Trying to leave the general levy as kind of the last major item if we had to backfill or put something in there to a levy across the community.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Chuck, I do need to recommend, you've got in your packet that the resolution that Chris developed for this, again, was done, and we've held out hoping that we would have heard from the Minnesota Office of Civil Rights. And since we
Right.
have not, in consultation and in discussion with the city attorney late this afternoon, we've had to make an adjustment in the resolution. I wasn't able to necessarily get it sent out to you, but what we would end up doing is after the second whereas. Ken, can you make this a little bit larger for people to see? There you go. After the second whereas there, where it says and whereas, we would scratch the word and we would add language that is essentially the following. It would be an additional whereas the MnDOT Office of Civil Rights has not yet granted to the city of New Prague approval to award the low bid for state project 4003-24, special project 237-010-006, Trunk Highway 19, in accord with agreement number 1035704, and at the end of number 1, right in front of you, after city administrator, the last line in the first paragraph below under the now therefore is instead of a period, we would put a comma and add the word contingent upon approval being obtained from the MnDOT Office of Civil Rights. So I would need you to, if you're going to approve the resolution, to approve the resolution as I've read to you or as amended, and that's the one we would use for execution purposes.
Okay. Do we have any idea when we're going to hear from that organization?
I was surprised we didn't hear from them already. And I know we've been pestering them, and so has the district staff. I would expect it would be something soon. And they haven't contacted the contractor asking for any additional information. So at this point, we assume they really don't have any questions.
Okay. Any other comments, questions for Chris or Mike in regarding to the bids? If not, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve the bids resolution with the changes that Mike has noted.
This is Rick. I'll move as amended.
Okay. I got a motion by Rick Seiler.
I'll second. This is Maggie.
Okay, I got a second by Maggie Bass. If there's no other comments or questions, okay. Mayor Nikolai says aye. Councilmember Bass.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf.
Aye, can you hear that?
Yay! Yes.
Okay,
And Councilmember Seiler.
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
The next meeting, we're expecting to have a full-on schedule when it's going to start.
By then, I ought to know something more. Yes, the contractor's been a little slow to say what their schedule is because they're waiting, of course, for final approvals as well. So.
Okay. So the next thing is, Chris, are you going to also take this, or Mike, professional service agreement?
I guess I assumed I was, or. Okay.
I'll let Chris plead his case.
What's that? Pardon?
I'll let Chris plead his case.
Okay, I'll plead my case, and Mike or Glenn can support as needed. So obviously, this proposal here is for what I'm calling the phase 3, or the construction engineering services agreement. Obviously, the city is the lead agency on this project. MnDOT has given the contract administration responsibility to the city as part of this project. MnDOT they will have their own staff on the project to inspect the MnDOT facilities. So the storm sewer construction, the roadway, the sidewalk, but SCH and the city will be overall responsible for the administration, contract administration. Now, MnDOT is providing the city with $362,200 that will be paid directly to the city, and as we found out today, at the end of the project, for the contract construction administration, for their share of that contract administration. So in addition, the contract administration that's being paid for by MnDOT is cover obviously management of the project, administration, construction staking, and record drawings. So with that is the city's portion of the project. They and I've listed here starts on the second page, contract administration, construction staking, so both agencies have a share of that. Construction observation or project liaison, or we really refer to it as a resident project representative, or RPR. That is the person that will be on the project day to day, overseeing construction on behalf of the city. They will be doing inspection of the city facilities, the sewer and water, but will also be working as, again, a liaison with the property owners, the city, and the contractor and the residents. Also, our scope includes assessments at the end of the project, which will be late in 2021, fall of 2021, and then record drawing preparation on behalf of the city, as well as requirements for MnDOT. I do summarize in the proposed fees, I do summarize the fees to date, which are the items in italics in phase 1 and phase 2. That was the pre-design, and then the final design and bidding. And then the rest is phase 3, which is the construction engineering and post-construction. I do recognize that this is a big number. It falls in line to where it would be expected to be, and I remind that this is about a 2-year plus project in terms of 2 construction seasons, and even in the spring of 2022, which will be the final landscape work and warranty work, so there'll be some field work again in 2022. And then I do list again the kind of schedule and future steps. So I guess with that, any questions?
So this $1,019,000, that is nowhere at all in any of the numbers we've seen yet that we approved, correct?
Other than in the correct, you have not considered it or approved it to date. It is well within the if you look at the construction total project cost in the last report.
Yeah.
This falls within that range of what we call the expected project-related costs. In fact, falls below that. Project-related costs would include not only this engineering, but also the testing services, which you're going to consider next, legal, fiscal, and bonding costs and things like that. And this falls within that range.
Chris, this is Sean. I have a question too. I know we were going to start on the ends, but I had a business owner on Main Street. Given this shelter in place and the bars essentially being closed and a lot of those shops either closed or scaled back, wouldn't it make more sense to do that central thing here, or the central portion of the construction project this year, as opposed to, I mean, some of these businesses have already written off their year's losses, plus they get some government help this year, but now we're giving them the double whammy. We got, this thing this COVID going on right now, and then next year we're going to come in and tear up all the streets in front of their shops and their bars and whatever else. Is there a way that seemed to make a lot of sense to me, that this would be the year of all years?
Yeah.
Since their business is already affected, to do it now.
Understanding that would be a question. the problem is from a physical standpoint, meaning where you have to start the project and to make everything work, we have to start at the bottom. The bottom being down where the sanitary flows to, where the storm sewer flows to, and you work your way upstream. And we could we couldn't do the central area without doing the area on the west. It would be physically possible to start down by the railroads, start down by 3rd Avenue and work our way east, and to continue. It would be feasible to continue east. But what we were trying to do was keep that core downtown available for Dojinki. Now, at this point, who knows if Dojinki Festival will happen because of the COVID thing. So that was one reason we were staying out of that core downtown, was for that reason. It's not to say we couldn't reconsider starting part of the core downtown and not doing what we called the area to the east. If you recall, we talked about an area 1 being down between the Trunk Highway 21 and about Wells Fargo, 2nd Avenue Northwest. That was area 1. Area 2 was going to be the area from the library to the east, and then 3 and 4 was the core downtown. It's possible we could consider instead doing area 3, whether the contractor would want to consider that. Again, it's totally revamping our plan and the schedule that we've set up. Again, not knowing what was happening with the COVID thing. But from a physical standpoint, it's kind of difficult for us to change gears and do that core downtown right now.
That's unfortunate, because I think Sean's really making a good point here, is that, you know, as city council, we also have to be very sensitive to the needs of the business owners. So I think we should take a hard look at rearranging it so that we can get that core portion done this year, or at least a good part of it.
And if we consider that, that pretty much means the use of that core downtown area for Dojinki it won't happen this year. And maybe at this point, that's not an issue. So that's the trade-off.
Right. Well, it's, but if Dojinki were going to happen, then we could maybe work with having it at a different part of town. You know, it's, you know, we could set it up. We could use part of the Memorial Park. You know, we could still have the parade. It's just, you know, not the central part of downtown. So I think moving Dojinki might be, should be put as the second thought. But I think for our business owners, we owe it to them to try to get that core downtown done this year.
And I don't know, Sean, who you talked to, but I mean, if this person was a bar owner and would know that chances are you won't have Dojinki, even if the COVID allows us to have Dojinki, are you okay with that? That would be my only question. That's probably
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from, Chuck, and I think this is just a starting point. You know, we'd have to contact what's feasible, how far through the main corridor can they get, and then talk to those business owners. But it just seemed to make a lot of sense to me. They've already written it off. Some of them can get government help. You know, if they're even open, they're limited hours already right now. And now they just feel like they're going to get the double whammy. This summer is going to be a total loss for them. And then boom, all of a sudden next year, we're going to be shutting them down and interfering with their business again. So, you know, Chris's point, I think it takes, I thought that first on the east end, or excuse me, the west end by the railroad tracks, that was going to be like a 4 or 6 week project. Is that correct?
No, that was going to take a while because they have to put in 5 crossings underneath the railroad. So that whole area down there is going to take a while before they can even proceed east.
Okay, well, I
So-
guess the point that I was trying to get at is, there's talk that there might not be a state fair anyways, or, football games or baseball games or any large crowds. So whether or not we'll be able to do it, and not just our town festival, but all town festivals. I mean, if they were starting on that east end, and then let's say Governor Walz cancels all big, large gatherings for the rest of the summer or through September or whatever it might be, could we transition at that point, I guess, to start working towards the main corridor as opposed to just finishing that and then going on the east end and working from, that Bruges past Memorial Park there? Does that make sense?
Well,
Is it?
it's not quite as simple, unfortunately. We would have to know. I guess let me point out too, that area 2 that we talked about, the area from the library to the east, was a contractor at the contractor discretion to whether they even start it this season. This contractor they feel that they want to, that is their intent, but it's not a requirement because we were worried about, especially as this COVID thing was developing, is putting too much risk on a contractor. So right now we have no contract, all our contract requirements for areas 3 and 4, the core downtown, is all scheduled for 2021. So now we have to totally revamp our contract or have a contractor that's willing, number one, to tackle, let's say, area 3 in the core downtown, and then willing to put a schedule together for that. And they would need to know that pretty soon. We would only be able to get, again, if they tackle just area 3, that would be from Wells Fargo up to First Avenue, the signal light, where the gas station is. So that would be about probably the limit of anything that could be done, again, if the contractor was willing to revamp their schedule and attack that area.
Well, that's the major core of the businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's worth a phone call at least to see if they would be willing to take a look at that. And then, we can certainly just contact the business owners that would be affected, and especially about Dozinki, to Chuck's point, and let them decide. But I think you'd find a lot of them, given their state of business right now, they'd much rather be closed and get it all done in one painful year with hopefully a little federal and state government help, and instead of 2 years of tough business.
Right, I agree. And then, you will have that nice, new, beautiful core area that will hopefully, draw people downtown and shop local. I think it's worth exploring. And we had even talked that if there was Dozinki disruption to the downtown, that we would try to make some walkable pathways to be able to get to the bars. I recall some discussion around that, but I'm with you, Sean. I would like to at least have that discussion with not necessarily maybe all the business owners, but at least to find out if the construction company can make it happen.
Bruce?
Maybe just a note too, we've sent out, mailings to the property owners. We did try to hold a couple of town hall meetings, and we did have some success. I think we only had a couple attendees at the first one. With the second one, I think we had about 18, and the third we had about 8. We did present the schedule and how it would be phased, and I guess didn't really hear any other comments. And I guess kind of what we were hoping for was we were going to hear comments from the business owners, objections, questions. And I guess at that point we didn't hear any of that.
But that was before this thing.
Now you will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously gotten worse and carried on further. I mean, our last meeting was, I guess a week before last. So I can certainly discuss it with the contractor. it'll take some effort to look at revising schedule and what they will agree to, assuming they're willing to do that, and then obviously communicating that out to the property owners.
This is Mike speaking, just as a point of clarification. Nothing in what was done in the revisions to the project scheduling was intended to necessarily benefit Dojinki. That was a byproduct of the end result of going to the 2-year phasing and the scheduling that we did. And also, secondly, based on the discussion that we had with the council on this 2-year phasing, is contract documents were changed and reflective and bid as the project is described by Chris here this evening. So we just can't willy-nilly tell the contractor we want to make a change. We can certainly explore and have conversations, but we've got legal documents that he's bid on already under the intentions of doing the west end and possibly the east end as it's laid out. So we've got to comply with potentially contract changes if this is to occur.
Yeah, I'm just asking for a phone call, Mike. I mean, it just makes sense. If the contractor says absolutely not, but you'd think, given this current state of affairs, that maybe he'd be a little understanding and say, hey, you know what, I could probably do this to help you guys out or help your business out.
And all I'm trying to say is that we can have that conversation, we can explore it, but contractually with the bids that came in, is they came in bid on the language and the revisions as Chris highlighted.
Yeah, it would,
right,
it would
I
be,
understand.
Yeah, if we get to that point and they seem receptive, it would require what they call, it'd be a change order. It may not be a numbers cost change order, but it'd be a contractual change order. So we'll see what
Which
we
we
find
do
out.
all the time. And, you know, if we need to vote from a council standpoint to you know, for you guys to move forward with this, maybe we should do that.
Well, we understand, I think, what you're asking, but technically, as Chris said, until we've got something that can be agreed upon between both the city and the contractor, we wouldn't have a change order to put in front of you.
Okay, so you guys will just make a phone call and just do a little inquiry with the contractor that we just gave $12.5 million to?
That's about all we can do.
Okay, no, thank you. I just wanted to hear that you would ask.
And thank you, Sean, for bringing that up.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so back at the agenda item, we're talking about the professional service agreement. Anyone have any other questions or concerns regarding that? Okay, if not, I will make a motion to approve the agreement.
I'll second.
Second.
I got a second by Maggie Bass. Any other comments or questions? If not, Mayor Nicolai says aye. Councilmember Bass?
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Councilmember Seiler?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you. And
Thank
the next
you.
thing is testing services.
I'll take this one as well.
Okay, you're on a roll. Go for it.
Yeah, might as well. Okay, well, before your consideration is testing services, which generally falls in the realm of what we call engineering, but this would be through a separate third party that contracts directly with the city. For this project, the only really testing that is going to be done is trench compaction and soil observation of this water main and the sanitary sewer construction. Again, this is a cost that was planned for and part of the budgeted total project costs. We got two proposals, one from Braun Intertech and the other from American Engineering Testing. We've gotten proposals from both these firms pretty much all the projects in the past. Braun has pretty much done all the work in the past. The proposals were very similar. Really kind of hard to decide, but so really based on past experience with Braun, having done all the work or most of the work in the city, that was our recommendation, was to award the construction testing services contract to Braun Intertech in the amount of $36,000. Any questions?
Yeah, does that Braun estimate, does that include the concrete testing too?
It does not. That excludes the concrete testing. I don't know why they put that in there, but we do not require any concrete testing as part of the city's portion of the project. MnDOT will be conducting concrete testing as under their observation portion of the project.
And that's their portion, we don't have to deal with it at all?
That is correct.
Great.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, this is Maggie. Is this $36,000 amount, is that rolled into the overall project cost estimate?
Yes.
Or is it outside?
It's part of that overall total project cost estimate. That would be considered included in there, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? If not, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve the bid of Braun Intertech to do the testing services.
So moved.
And a motion by Rick Seiler. I guess I'll second it. So if there's no other further comments, Mayor Nikolai says aye. Councilmember Bass,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf,
Aye.
Councilmember Seiler.
Aye.
Okay, it passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Chris. And again, we'd really appreciate it if you could reach out to Hedges and just see regarding the schedule questions that we have.
Okay, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll get them thinking about it. So
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, next, item number 4. Jim, you seem to be hiring people.
That's what we're working on. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, I would ask you to entertain the appointment of Chantel Nelson for the police clerk typist position. We had interviews with her via video. Ms. Nelson is a graduate of New Prague High School. She completed an Associate of Applied Science for Accounting, Business Management, and Legal Secretary with Rasmussen College. She has extensive experience with various law firms, Hennepin County Attorney's Office, city government, and operator-owner of a licensed daycare. Most recently, she has been employed with Helmuth and Johnson Law Firm, the city of Apple Valley, and currently with McCullum, Crowley, Morshett, Miller, and Lack Law Firm. I would recommend that Chantel M. Nelson be appointed to police clerk typist position with an effective starting date of May 4th or thereafter, and her starting salary be at step 4 of the structured pay schedule for 2020.
So when's Judy's last day?
Judy is looking at May 29th as her last day. So anticipate trying to get her on board and get some training time with the whole COVID-19. It was a little different.
So moved.
So hold on here, Rick. I got a question. So is she going to be
Taking that path,
taking
but
care of Judy?
even it is successful completion on a section of her background, some of which parts we cannot do right. Am I cutting out?
Yeah, you are.
Mayor, I'm not hearing you.
Can everyone else
I
hear
was
me?
cutting out, sorry.
Yes, I
can
can
hear
hear you.
So this appointment is based on, I can hear you. Am I back?
You're
I
back.
think so.
We can hear you.
Okay. This appointment would be based on a successful completion of all the background information and things that we need for anybody working in criminal justice information. Some of those parts of those backgrounds may not be completed until a later date.
So this position is going to take Judy's
When we-
spot,
No,
correct?
no.
No.
Actually, I posted internally for Judy's position. So Jessica, we had hired about a year ago, she put in for Judy's position, so she'll be moving to that.
Okay.
And then I reposted for the clerk typist in-house according to our HR manual. And did not get any applicants from within the city structure right now. And I did, because our hiring list was less than a year old, I went back to interview the top 3 that were on that list. And that's where this candidate came from then.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions or comments for Jim?
Mayor, this is Mike. 2 meetings ago, you approved the promotion from Jessica, who is in that current clerk typist position, into what is now Judy's position. And this is essentially backfilling Jessica's position.
Okay.
So there are no new additional employees. We're still at 2 in that department.
Okay.
Jim,
Any
what's
other
the total
questions,
level
comments?
of steps?
Pardon?
What's the maximum step you can make, you can get to?
9.
9.
9? Oh, okay. You know, the last few people that we've hired, we've always started them at much higher steps in the beginning. Is that something we need to take a look at? If those are not getting us, if step 1 is
usually
getting us any candidates?
Well, I think it's based on where they're at for salaries at the time. And to actually offer them a position and be competitive, we would have to offer a little more than what they're making now, or unless it's an equal transition for them, at least equal. And that's what's been happening the last, well, Jessica was at a starting step, but for our police officers, I know because of experience, they were increased in their steps when they were appointed. And in this case, the same thing. Her experience and where she currently is for salary now, this was enough to entice her to come to the city then.
Okay.
Sean, this is Mike speaking. We look at that every single time we do a hire, where we start them on the pay scale. And if they're relatively young, inexperienced, or don't have what we need, then we're obviously down on the lower end. But if we're competitively trying to recruit somebody out of another existing position somewhere else, in some cases, we can't start at step 1 or 2 and have to go a little bit further up. But I do review that with the department head on every hiring.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Jim? If not, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve this hire.
So moved. This is Maggie.
Okay, Maggie made the motion. Does someone get a second?
I'll second.
And that was Sean.
Yeah. I'm
We get a
sorry.
motion and a second. There's no other comments. Mayor Nikolai says aye. Councilmember Bass.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf.
Aye.
Councilmember Seiler.
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Next is boards and commissions. Mike, I assume you're going to take this. I guess my question before you start, Mike, is it even worth going through this process, or can we see if these people are willing to serve until we get through this COVID situation?
Yes, the process under the ordinance basically indicates that members would continue to serve in their current appointments until the council appoints somebody new to fill that vacancy, even after the term expires.
Okay.
So
I don't
you
know.
could
I don't know what
choose.
the other council members think, but I just think we should reach out to everyone who's up for a renewal and see if they're willing to serve um, until we can obviously come back to somewhat normal. And if that's this fall or if that's another year, see if they're willing to commit to maybe another year.
I agree.
Yeah, this is
Second.
Maggie Isles.
Will you take it as a motion?
I don't know. Do you Mike, would you like us to do it in a motion?
Yeah, that wouldn't hurt.
Okay. So I guess I will make a motion that um, to reach out and establish that these people who are up for their commissions being over with asked to extend it for a maximum of 1 year to get us through this current pandemic situation.
Second.
Is that Rick?
Yep.
Okay, I made the motion. Rick, a second. Any other comments?
I just have a comment as Bruce, just to, if we extend it for a year, just to maintain the staggered terms. So we'll have 2 more people expiring in the same year, but they'll be for different terms. So that just understood.
So the one would be a 1 less year term.
Right.
One that would stay on. Is that what you're suggesting, Bruce?
Yeah, so we don't start having multiple people expiring the same year.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay.
And then one question for you here. You got Nick Slavic. Do you want to bring that issue up real quick?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can, Mike.
This is Mike speaking. Likely, I believe it was as of last week, EDA board member Nick Slavic has moved outside of the city limits, and effectively under the city ordinance, it would necessitate him submitting a letter of resignation because he no longer is a city resident. The council adopted that language from a historical perspective. Not everybody may be on, but the council went to great lengths. I think Sean and the mayor are the only 2 left from when that was first debated, but the council has pretty well hung tough, I want to say since 2010 or shortly thereafter, with that language and requiring any board or commission member to be a resident of the city. If you were to choose to do otherwise, then you would have to go into looking at the ordinance and amending or changing the ordinance.
So you can make an amendment or an attachment to it, saying that Nick could continue because the distance outside the city is so close?
That proximity has nothing to do with it. The language that the council adopted that is in the ordinance on board and commission members requires residency within the city limits.
So is there, Mike?
My feeling is that we should allow the, no. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, I was just going to say, in this situation, is there a time limit when someone has to resign, or is it something effective as soon as he becomes a non-resident?
Correct. Yeah. Once we become aware of the fact that he is no longer a resident, he should tender his resignation from the EDA board.
Okay.
I don't have any flexibility as the administrator to make modifications or changes in that. The council adopted that requirement as part of the city ordinance on board and commission members. So you guys are the only ones that can change that, and that has to be changed by ordinance if that was to occur.
Right. No, I think everyone understands that. I just didn't know if there was a 30-day window or a 60-day window type of thing.
No, there is no time limit. It just says to be a board member, you have to be a resident of the city.
Okay. Okay. Well, I made the motion, and I think, Rick, you seconded to keep the current board members that are, their term is ending to stay on for additional year. And with noted that when we do fill the positions within that year, they will be at a staggered a term so that we have the same kind of schedule of people retiring or coming off the boards. Any other questions? Okay, Mayor Nikolai says aye. Councilmember Bass,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf,
Aye.
Councilmember Seiler.
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Okay, next, Mike, Patty, Bruce, you guys kind of want to talk about how it's going with the departments on the COVID situation? Jim, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to update other than each department continues to work with their employees, and to date, we haven't had any illnesses that appear to be COVID-19 related at all. With the governor's extension of the stay-at-home order, temporary bars closed, restaurants and other public accommodation back on April 8th. That is in effect through May 3rd. So that is where we're at right now with that. I know with 2028 executive or 2038, I'm sorry, executive order that came out last Friday with opening of the golf courses. I've been talking with Kurt regarding some of the things that would need done, put in place. He was looking for some masks. I should have some access to some cloth masks here either today. They were supposed to come in or tomorrow, and I will get him some of those for his employees anyways, so that he can service the public with those. Also put in a call to the state trying to get clarification about if the golf course could actually utilize their on-sale liquor license and sell for consumption out on the course, because golf courses are different in the statute starting. It is not their build space, it is the golf course. I put a call in and talked to somebody, and she indicated just off the executive order, they indicate there's not supposed to be any consumption on the premises. I talked to her about the fact that golf courses are different. So I did put an email into the critical sector at the state of Minnesota to see what their review of that question would be. So I should hear from them tomorrow. And then I'll get back to Kurt regarding that. PPE is a big thing you're hearing about all the time, personal protective.
Did he freeze up?
Yep.
Equipment. Right now, as a police department, fire side of us, and we continue to order, put orders in if we need to. I know for the city, Bruce had a lead through his utility group, and we ordered additional masks through that. So we'll see. But as of right now, we appear to be pretty good with our equipment needs. That's all I have, but if the other department heads would like to open up with anything,
Patty, would you like to add
or
anything?
if the council has questions.
As far as in our department, everything's been going really well. We divided up in 2 teams. What's really nice is our new computers that we can take home with us and access quite a bit of our files. We have a little bit difficulty because the server, we haven't gotten the new server yet, accessing all of our customer files. But between the phone and what we can do on the computer, it's been working out really well.
Good. And I know we kind of had a little server issue with the golf course opening up on Saturday, but has that been rescheduled, Mike, do you know, or Ken?
I'll let Ken talk about that when it's his turn.
Okay. Anything else, Patty?
And the only other thing is I just wanted, to reiterate that we are not putting any penalties on anybody's utility bills until further notice, and we're doing no disconnects. Tomorrow we'll be running a report to see what our delinquents look like. But we've been pretty busy collecting, so.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's see. Bruce, primers.
Really not a lot has changed since the last council meeting. We're kind of still doing what we were then. Crews are busy. We're started construction on a lot of fronts. So everything's going really good yet. And nobody's gotten, to Jim's point, nobody has gotten sick that we're aware of. So doing good.
Okay, good. Glenn.
Same for Public Works. Still splitting groups up or people that have to work in groups, trying to keep them as separate as we possibly can. Being creative and sending guys out by themselves to do jobs. So it's been working out really well. Everybody seemed to be cooperating very well and being a team player. So.
Okay, great. Okay, Ken.
Yeah, to comment on the server changeover, the network changeover, actually, we're probably looking at doing that on May 5th, which is a Tuesday morning. So that's what we're looking at for that work. Other than that, I don't have too much of an update from the building and planning. Looks like Hy-Vee is going to pick up their permit for the renovation of the shop post probably tomorrow and start some work on that. So you'll be seeing activity out there very shortly. So that's probably the best update I can give on projects at this point. But a lot of people are finding time to do decks. I can tell you that. We've had a ton of deck permits coming in. So people apparently want to sit on a deck when they're at home.
Okay.
I gotta do something with this thing.
Okay. How about you, Mike?
I think one of the notable items included in the back of your packet is part of the governor's decision this last week on allowing restaurants to be able to sell either a bottle of wine or beer with their food sales. Was, as part of the bill that was approved by the legislature, was a provision in there that cities may opt out of that action. So I included the resolution. Oh, apparently I thought I did. I don't see it. I see the front page of it. I thought that I had the resolution that was with this. And basically what it is, or at least I pulled it out and was looking at it. Do you have the resolution in your packet in the back?
No.
I do not.
This appear that we do.
It's the notice where the bill allows restaurants to sell alcohol with takeout meals.
Yeah, but the resolution is not on the backside or attached to it.
Okay, and I apologize for that. I thought it was going to be attached there. But what it is you as a council have the choice to effectively prohibit that occurring, and you would have to adopt an opt-out by resolution. So all I'm doing is simply making you aware of that you have that choice. Not that I figured that you would adopt such a resolution, but I have the responsibility to make you aware of that you could if you so chose to do so.
So in other words, if we do nothing, then we just follow the state statute.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anyone have any comment on that?
I would just ask for our chief's opinion on that issue.
I don't believe it would be an issue at all. It only applies to those that have active liquor license. It's not like a non-licensed restaurant can just pick up some beer and start selling it. They have to have a liquor license in place already, is my understanding.
Does that clarify it, Bruce?
Yeah, thanks. I just felt that if he had a strong opinion one way or the other, that I would support whatever he thought's gonna keep peace in our community.
Basically, what's authorized under the statute is basically a 6-pack or a bottle of wine. And a bottle of wine.
Okay. Any other comment on that?
And then relative to the authorization with allowing the golf course to open on Saturday, it was done, and Kurt implemented all of the required CDC guidelines, and they made the changes on the golf course to ensure that all of the players, and Mayor, I think you said you played this weekend, we put into place all of the known and recommended, like I said, CDC guidelines to limit as much as possible, limit any touching or interaction with anything with the flag stick, benches, ball washers, rakes, all that kind of stuff. On carts, individuals had to take a cart unless there was 2 family members. Those are cleaned and sanitized in between use. All of the tee times and everything and payment was being taken online. Nobody was allowed in the pro shop. I think he was handling everything through the window. So they instituted all of the required elements to comply with the governor's order.
And I think Jeff and Kurt did a great job. I think it went really well. Kurt seemed to have everything under control. So, kudos to those guys to be able to handle a tough situation, because Saturday it was a full golf course, and Sunday wasn't as full because of the weather was a little cooler, but it was good to see a lot of people out there, but they were also very good at following the rules. And Kurt did have to a couple times say something on the from the microphone out there to remind people about the social distancing. But overall, I would say people were very well received of the changes that were taking place. And I think, Jim, to your point, having that liquor thing resolved and thing, I think would really, benefit, the golf course also. But we understand that it's not your call, but as soon as you can let Kurt know, that'd be great.
Yeah, I will get a hold of him right away then. I can put it out to everybody.
Okay.
Mayor, this is Mike again. That just as an example, the 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, brought in total revenues of a little over $35,000, and there were almost 400 rounds of golf played.
Yes, very, very nice. Okay, next, the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions, any issues, or anything that needs to be addressed in the consent agenda?
I have a couple on the accounts payable.
Go ahead, you got Patty here. She should be able to answer it.
Oh, so on page 1 in the administration, there's the Baker Tilly study for 3,500. I was just kind of curious why it was 3,500 for administration, and then it was spread out to the enterprise fund, the sanitary sewer on page 4, but it didn't hit any of the other departments. I don't know if that's a Patty or Mike question, but
No, that would have been
don't you
me.
spread
It should have hit all the enterprise funds. I'll have to look into that, Sean.
okay.
You got any other ones, Sean?
Yeah, I was then in the parks, the unemployment benefits, 985. Did we let somebody go, or on page 3 under parks?
There are a few people from the parks and also, well, some with the golf course that we had to pay unemployment.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So irregardless,
I wasn't aware of the park.
pardon?
I just wasn't aware that somebody at the parks got let go either.
There was
I knew
nobody
that
from
we
the,
scaled back.
there was nobody from the parks that got let go, but their part-time seasonal help, they can apply for unemployment during the winter.
Oh,
If they put
okay.
in so many
I see.
hours, they can.
Right. So it's it's based on their quarters of employment, and then there's a percentage of that amount that they are eligible for.
Okay. And then the last question, Mike,
Mayor, I've got
on
one.
page.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Sean.
Mike.
I was going to try to anticipate your question that under attorney, under legal for Kennedy and Graven, of that total amount, 7,500 is for appraisal work that was done by Patchen and Mesner for the temporary easement for our condemnation matter for the car sales lot down on the west end of the project.
Oh, okay. That wasn't the question though, but the one that I had is in on page 4, Fund 227, that special revenue rental. Is that the house behind the property taxes, the house behind City Hall?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
is that 741? We're paying that twice a year, 741?
That's half the year.
Yeah, but I'm assuming the other half is a 741 too, right?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're
so
correct.
$1,500. And so I guess my point is we're paying $1,500 in property taxes, but are we still renting that house for $200 a month or whatever it was?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're making $2,400, but we're paying $15 in taxes?
That's correct. The council agreed to set it and leave it at $200 and not change it.
Do we do that on a yearly basis or?
No, no, it wouldn't necessarily change on an annual basis. We came to the council asking whether you wanted to do something to do anything to increase that, and the council basically said no. So why would we bring it back after the council said no?
No, I know it was a number of years ago. I want to see if we should reapproach that if we're paying $1,500 in taxes, but only getting $2,400 a year in rent. You know, the $800 doesn't seem like it's really worth it. Maybe we should look at selling that property.
Is the same person still renting it, Mike?
Yes, we're still renting it to the same lady that has rented it for many years. Her and her husband did, and there was an arrangement made with the city originally that due to the economics of their situation, her husband died, I think, sometime shortly after I arrived in 2008, but the city had been doing that based on where and how they originally acquired that property way back at the beginning. So there's some special conditions there that I may not even totally aware of that were never put into a written lease. It was all handled orally. And so, yes, there's no question that the rent is $2,400 and the rent is a little over $1,400. It's not normal. And when and if this rental situation ceases to be over, our recommendation will be to tear the house down.
Right.
I'm not familiar with this circumstance. I'm just wondering if we can just revisit this in the next budget cycle, so some of us that are not familiar with it can kind of get the background.
Sure. That'll work,
Okay.
Bruce.
Patty put it on her to-do
That was
list.
my last question.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions regarding the consent agenda? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Rick here,
I'll
second.
second.
There
Okay,
you
I
go,
got a
Nick.
second by Rick. If there's no other questions or comments, Mayor Nikolai says aye. Councilmember Bass,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf,
Aye.
Councilmember Seiler.
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. We're at the miscellaneous segment. Does anyone have anything else they would like to bring up? Ken, start with you.
Nope.
Okay, Glenn.
No, I got nothing.
Okay, Patrick.
Do have one question for Jim.
Okay.
If you hear back tomorrow about the issue with the golf course and their liquor license, can you let me know, please?
Sure,
Okay,
I will do
thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Patrick?
That's it.
Patty.
Nothing.
Chris?
No, nothing. Thank you.
Okay, Bruce?
Nothing, thanks.
Barb?
No, nothing.
Michael?
Just a couple of quick items. One, in the Star Trib today, you probably read an article about city councils are getting together just apart by doing the teleconferencing, either by video as we are doing tonight or by telephone. A number of the larger cities were acknowledged in that article. It talked about one, Brooklyn Center. They decided not to hold any meetings in April and to postpone their meetings until they get technology to do it remotely. And I'm thinking, what new technology would they need? It sounds like just a choice of what application they use. And in light of that, and reading the article, I think from the council's perspective, as you take a look at now this being our second meeting, and we've been through all of the boards and commission meetings, I believe, except Park Board, right, Ken?
Yep.
Through Ken's leadership and Jim, the two of them predominantly, they've kind of been the pushers as we take a look at the go-to meeting, and we've also used Zoom, we've used Google. I'm not sure what else is on the list, but we've been through any number of them. But to date, Ken has been the one really helping create the information you see in the box on your agenda on how we go through this go-to meeting, and this gets put together and managed. He's done a good job of taking the lead and helping get us through that process. So I think we've managed the change and the conversion here relatively quickly, but he's had a lot to do to help us do that. And then secondly, I sent out to you this morning an update I had gotten from Terry Heaton that we didn't get into the packet, in taking a look at the bonding process that would come with, now that you took action to award the bid tonight on the highway project. I'll need to work with Patty and the staff to move forward with trying to assemble the bonding to be able to pay for our share of the project. And I tried to put in your hands information. One is that we verified that we reviewed the test for the 429 improvement process, and we meet the minimum 20% threshold that we met that requirement. It's about a 2-month process. Once we bring to you the resolution to call for the sale of bonds, it'll take us about 2 months to get through to be able to call for the sale, award the sale, and then to close the sale. It's about a 2-month process. And so I got to make sure that we're able to put together that timing wise, that when Chris starts bringing in invoices to pay for the startup, that we've got cash in hand to be able to pay bills. Terry did provide an overview of where interest rates have been. And although she provided you with a graph that showed bonds for AAA rated bonds, our city, we've got a AA credit rating, and the interest rates for bonds right now are between 2 and 2.5% at the present time. So in the process, that gives you an idea of kind of where that's at. And so we'll take a look at the fund balances and the enterprise funds, what the new debt service schedules are. Typically, the council has looked at 15 years on the repayment on this debt. So that's what we will assemble all of our preliminary estimates based on. But likely we would have the call for the sale at the second meeting in May for you to consider taking action on.
Okay. Anything else?
Mike, I had a question on that. I'm not sure if you received my email earlier, but does the bond, are we including the fund amounts in that bond issuance? Like for sewage fund, in that fund itemization that was on the previous sheet?
Yeah, when we go to take a look at that, Bruce, that we take a look at it and you don't see in that picture up front is that when you take a look at the cash balance or the fund balance and some of that is you don't see the existing debt service payments requirements that are several years into the future. But we take a look at what would the 15-year schedule be, and are we able to use any of the available fund balance to potentially reduce the amount of the bond issue for the enterprise fund operations.
Okay, so that process will take place in the future here then.
That's what I'm saying is that with your action to award the contract tonight to do the project, I now need to turn that we've been waiting, that we've got final numbers here for the most part. And so we will go back and begin trying to craft what does that bond issue potentially look like, so that we can bring that to you for you to consider before we actually call for the sale.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood when we had the estimated project funding and it said sanitary fund $1.4 million. That doesn't mean we're going to take $1.4 million out of the sanitary fund. It means that we may be looking to that fund to be responsible for that amount. Some may be borrowed and some may be cash.
Could be, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay, Jim, you're the final guy. You got anything else to say before we get to council? He's on mute.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you. Rick, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Bruce?
No, nothing, thank you.
Okay, Maggie?
No, nothing, thanks.
John?
Yeah, I'd just like to next council meeting, if we could address the golf cart issue and change or take a look at the hours of operation and extend them past sunset if they have all the working lights and turn signals and everything else. we talked about it late last fall. We were gonna bring it back up, looking at the golf cart.
I think we were talking about other recreational vehicles too that could be street
And
ready,
other
that we want to make sure we're consistent.
Right. I'd like to get that on next week's, or 2 weeks from now agenda. That's all I had.
Okay. I don't have anything, so I guess I'll make a motion to, Mike, am I supposed to make a motion to adjourn and then we'll go into a closed session?
No, we'll actually close out of this meeting, and I would suggest you wait a few minutes and then re-log back into the next special meeting that will be closed.
Okay.
Log
I'll
in
make a
and
motion
ask
to
for-
adjourn.
Second.
I got a second by Rick Seiler. Mayor Nicolai says aye. Councilmember Bass.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf.
Aye.
Councilmember Seiler.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. And 5 minutes, everyone log in so everyone can go get a, cigarette or something you need, right, Rick?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna go to the bathroom, but
There
I
you go.
wasn't gonna-
Let's do that too. So in 5 minutes, everyone will be back for the special closed session meeting.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.